Hello guys, how are you doing today? Little bright in here, is it not? Let's fix this. Crap. One more time. Better. So, wristwatch check. Hamilton Trent automatic. Mwah. Brown leather strap. Red shirt today, trying to be matchy. Otherwise, that's the only reason I picked this watch out. Anyway, that's what I'm wearing today. So, long story short, this video is going to be about investing in watches. There are several other people on YouTube that have made videos like this. I frankly was going to leave this topic alone. However, I've had a lot of people reach out to me and they're asking me what watches to invest in. And this is my fault because if you've watched a lot of my previous videos, you would definitely read into the fact that I'm very particular when I buy my watches. And I'm all about, and I've made this probably very clear, which is probably where this confusion is coming from, that I only buy watches when they're well priced, and I always try to buy watches that are the best value, and in a lot of cases I've actually made money on my watches. If you can buy something with your knowledge at a good price and make money on it, then why wouldn't you invest in it, is kind of the question people ask. And the reality is that, you know, like stocks or anything else, the market is subject to a lot of factors that people have no control over. And here's the deal. Is it possible to buy a watch that you can make money on? Absolutely, I'm living proof. I've made money on a lot of watches, and obviously too, you know, watch dealers wouldn't exist if that wasn't a possibility. However, as with all things in life, housing market, car market, you know, stocks, for every one you make money on, there could be several that you could lose a lot of money on. And here's the deal too. It's all about how you want to make your money work for you. Could you, in theory, use your knowledge that you gain from YouTube channels like myself and others and get really good at reading the market, know what brands to invest in, know what models are really good investments in theory as compared to other brands, and pick some good choices that odds are going to appreciate in value? Absolutely. I do that all day long. However, if you took that same money and invested it in other things, are you going to get the same returns on a watch as you would in some other markets? Absolutely not. If you're looking at a watch transaction as some way to kind of grow your bank account and as an investment strategy for growing your portfolio and growing your bottom line, and this is something you're going to do to help save for retirement, don't do it. You're not going to make a fortune flipping watches, and I have no doubt there's probably one or two people in the world that have pulled it off, so I mean, feel free to tell me otherwise. Personally, I would never recommend anybody finds themselves into a watch market and as a pure way of investing into their, you know, as an investment strategy. I'm not going to get into investment strategies. Please don't ask me for stock advice or any of that stuff either. Actually, the last thing I would ever do is tell somebody what to do with their money on this channel. A, because I don't want the liability over my head, and B, because everybody has a different opinion. But I do want to make it clear, personally, I would not recommend people invest in watches. Here's what I would recommend. I would recommend that you use the knowledge you get off of YouTube from channels like myself and others to, when you're buying watches, first and foremost, buy a watch that you're really going to enjoy. But second, if you're picking between several watches, pick a watch that is probably the best value and is the least likely for you to lose money on. That's kind of my strategy. Now, grant you, there are people out on YouTube, I can think of several right now, that really don't care what their watch is worth after they buy it. And if you fall into that camp, then great. Feel free to ignore the rest of the video. For those of you that are kind of like me, and if you follow psychology, there's this thing called Enneagram, and there's a thing called self-preservation type, which I have to an nth degree, and you're very protective of your resources, and you're very much about getting the most bang per buck and how much, you know, you can protect your money and your assets, then you may help find this helpful. So here's the deal. Anybody that's ever met me or knows me knows that I'm a pretty cheap human being. I cut money and save money wherever I can, and I try to live below my means. But at the end of the day, life is very short, and there are hobbies that I really enjoy, and I would have a much more miserable life if I wasn't able to indulge in those hobbies. And wristwatches is one of those hobbies. So the way that I kind of justify it to myself is I strategically buy watches that I enjoy. I do this the same thing with cars and with watches. And with cars, and also I was going to say with houses is what I meant to say, and that I find things that I actually will enjoy, but I also buy them from an investment perspective. And when I say investment, let me be clear. Not necessarily into the guise that I plan to make money on them, but is that I'm protecting my money as best that I can, and at the worst case scenario, I'm going to lose the least amount of money as possible. And that's how I justify it to myself, and that's how I sleep well at night. I know that the watches that I'm buying, you know, when I buy them, if I lose a little bit of money, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And hey, on a good day, I may make some money on the deal too. So it's kind of a neutral thing to me. My whole goal with collecting watches is to just enjoy the hobby, and if I do it right, I'll end up, basically breaking even, which basically means that's awesome. I'm enjoying my watches for free. And if I look back at I can't even tell you how many watches I've owned over the years. I would say in general it's kind of been a wash. I've had some really big winners that I've sold for major profits, and I've had some that I took a bath on. I lost a ton of money on. But I'd say in general it's kind of been a washout. And I'm very happy with that. I basically have gotten to enjoy a hobby that I love for many, many years with very little cost to me in terms of my account. Now, I could have easily taken the money I've invested in watches, put it into other investments, and grown that money by a far greater amount. Again, I'm saying at best I've probably been neutral on my watch purchases. But again, this is a hobby for me. It's something I do for fun. And just to kind of give you guys some examples, I'll give you an example of a great scenario. Right around 2001-ish, I bought a two-tone Datejust. I'll post it here. I have a review on it. It's really old, so if you watch the review, please forgive me. It's terrible. But I bought that Datejust for, believe it or not, like $2,100. And that's because the market was still pretty depressed when I bought it. And we were still coming out of the recession, which you can argue whether or not we're still in a recession. But long story short, Rolexes were pretty depressed at that point. I picked it up for $2,100. I wore the thing for 6 months, maybe a year. Loved the watch, but a guy offered me $4,000 for it, and I'm like, hey, sold, it's all yours. So I basically walked away and doubled my money almost, just barely. I mean, again, $2,100, sold it for $4,000. In the course of under a year, I made $1,900 on that watch. Honestly, I miss that watch now, and I can't buy one back for anywhere near what I paid for it. So, whether or not it was a good decision for me to sell, it's kind of debatable. But again, that's possible. I mentioned a couple weeks ago too on Don't Buy a Watch for Status, on my Don't Buy a Watch for Status video, that I had an Omega Seamaster chrono that I also bought really cheap. I bought it for $850, something like that. Kept it a little bit, and then I sold it, which to this day I still regret, but I flipped that watch for $2,000 at the time, and I think they're still worth around there somewhere. So there's a couple examples of watches that I've made pretty decent money on. Honestly, for a while too, I made some pretty decent money buying vintage and selling vintage Girard-Perregaux. So yes, it happens. I've also taken baths on watches, and I've lost a fortune on watches. And there are some other brands out there that just don't hold their value. And I'm not going to get into the topic of what brands to buy or not to buy, because that to me should be its own video, so I'll get there. So if you guys are curious of what brands tend to hold their value the best, I'm going to make a video on that, so don't worry. But there are some brands that don't hold their value that well, and Omega unfortunately tends to fall into that camp pretty often. If you've been watching me for a while too, I also used to have an Omega Speedmaster chrono. Well, all Speedmasters are chronos, sorry. An Omega Speedmaster. I bought it. It was not the traditional moon watch. I liked it a little bit, but I honestly should have gotten the nicer version. Like if you've seen on my channel, I did a review on my friend Grant's. That was a version that I liked better. And long story short, I had the watch maybe 6 months. I paid $2,000 for that watch, which was a going rate at the time. I got sick of it. I thought it was a little too small for my wrist, and I was looking at buying a Daytona at that point. And so it was basically at that point that I just decided to get rid of it. I bought the watch for $2,000. When I sold that watch, I think I got $750 out of it. So in that case, I lost almost $1,300 on that watch. And it's been several other things. So you may have seen on my channel an Omega Seamaster Quartz. I paid retail for that watch, which retails for suckers, but I paid retail for that watch $2,200. If I want to turn around and sell that watch within a couple days of me buying it, I would have been lucky if any dealer in town would have given me $900 for it, because there's obviously major markups. But even if you do your research really well, the markets can change overnight. Panerai are really hot for a while. Their market's really softened. There's trends in the market. And like right now, I have a Rolex GMT Master 2. Those things seem to be appreciating. For a while, nobody would buy those things, and they were hard to sell. So, the market changes every day. So here's what, again, I'd recommend. If you're looking for a way to make investments and you're trying to grow, your net worth, watches is not what you want to be involved in. The market's subjective to all sorts of things. And currently, the current state of the Swiss watch industry should be enough to tell you that the market can change overnight. And I'm not going to get into the whole deal with the Swiss watch industry. Federico and other people have made better videos on it than I will. But again, things happen, and you can't go into this just expecting to make money on your purchases, even if you follow the best advice. If you want to get into watches and you want to be careful with your money, I would just recommend you do what I do, which is find a bunch of watches you like from brands that hold their value well. And again, I'll have to make a video on that. And then do your research and buy watches at a really good price. And as long as you buy a watch at a good price and hopefully you get at or below market value at the time, odds are you're going to be pretty safe with your money. And if anything, you might lose a little bit or gain a little bit. But at the end of the day, you basically get to be enjoying the watch hobby for relatively low cost or free, depending on how long you keep the watch and a multitude of factors. But if this is something you're passionate about, you know, and you can get away with it for little cost, when we're talking thousands of dollars you could easily invest into this kind of a hobby, I don't think that's a bad deal. You know, if you can go buy a Rolex for $5,000 and keep it 5 years and then sell it for $6,000, not a bad deal. If that same watch is going down to $4,500 and it cost you $500 to have for that many years, again, not a bad deal. So that's my perspective. Don't get into this looking to invest in watches. You know, again, I'm not telling you even need to be conservative with your money. Again, there's plenty of people out there that really don't care. They buy their watches for life and they keep them for life. I don't, I can't, I'm so disloyal to my watches. I like them so much and then I move on. And so I'm always trying to minimize my losses on any of the watches that I buy. I try to buy them when I think they're a good choice or a good price. And that way, when I go to sell them, I'm not getting, you know, beaten down with a bad price and losing money on them. I mean, I may lose a little, but it's not going to be painful for me. So hope you guys found this helpful. As always, thank you guys so freaking much for all the support you guys continue to give my channel. I'm up to what, 5,600 subscribers now? Holy crap. So as always, guys, thank you so much. Links to social media accounts are below. I post really crappy Instagram pictures typically daily. If you want to watch really bad photography, that's on there. I have a Facebook channel, which nobody wants to support me on. What? And let me be, and by support I mean is I do all the content. Nobody wants to leave me little sweet nothings on there. So go to my Facebook channel and tell me what you guys think about watches. The whole reason I do this for the most part is I love talking to people about watches. So feel free to go on there if you're on Facebook. Post pictures of your watches on my channel. Let me know what you guys are into. I'd love to kind of get a sense of who's watching my videos and what you guys enjoy. That'd be very helpful for me. And as always, guys, blessed to have you. Thank you so much. Stay tuned, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. And to do that, if you haven't already, you need to subscribe, which is down below. So I don't know where my finger is. It's over here. So subscribe below if you haven't already, and thank you so much.